All right. Well, thank you, Dennis. What an honor to be here and to present how to bring your best game. It took a lot of life and a lot of years to figure this out, and I'm still learning. So we're going to learn together today. When you think about, I'm
Oh,
sure most of us have watched some kind of professional sports game, whether it's soccer or tennis or basketball or football, and you look at these folks that hit the field, man, they are just ready to rock and roll, and yet uh, can they do that every day? And I used to watch them and wonder, how do they do that? How do they keep bringing their best game every time? And like sports professionals, it doesn't come easy. They have to practice, they have to be fit, they have to have their head in the game, they have to have a lot of things that go into their best game before they ever get to the game, if that makes sense. So, like in life, I've often wondered, how do we bring our best game? And what keeps us from bringing the best game in our personal lives, in our professional lives, in our ministry lives, anything that we do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I started working when I was 11 years old. My first education came in a food court. I would spend whatever time I could in that food court, and I would sit there with my free glass of water, and I would just watch people all day long, hours and hours and hours. I would watch the vendors, how they treated their customers or their employees. I would watch the employees, how they treated each other or the manager, and I would watch the customers' interactions. So everything was about transaction and relationship. And in our life, everything is a transaction of exchange, whether it's love, money, something in trade, but it's also relationship, and that's the key to not only bringing our best game, but to being able to do that against the odds. Now, I'm sure no one out there has had adversity before in their life, but if you have, then we're going to talk about different kinds of circumstances and how that plays out. Because change makers bring their best game before they ever set a foot on the floor when they wake up in the morning. And they do that by deciding the night before what their best game is. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to tell you about the few things that we already know if you've ever been in business. First one is, if you get up, you show up, you have half the battle won. Okay, because that's part of the game. If you don't feel well, if the kids have been sick all night, if something has happened in your life and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day. But you get up and you show up. That's 50% of the battle. My husband and I had the honor of being able to rescue hundreds of at-risk youth in our area. And one of the first things we taught them is getting up and showing up with the intention to have that great day, to have a good day even. And finishing that day was a success. It was half the battle. The rest of the day was up to them, as it is with us. And so fast forward, to college. I got my business administration and communications degree, and then I went on to graduate school. But education is only as good as the way you use it. And so despite a lot of dreams that I had, I went back to business because I really wanted to focus in on what could create success so it would support the ministries and the things that I wanted to do in life. And one of the things is circumstances. There's a cycle of circumstances that we don't always understand. There are intentional circumstances, things that we choose, and there are unintentional circumstances. So let me share a story with you. I remember when I was very young, there was a girl, and we're going to call her Jean for purposes of this story. And Jean came from a very violent and dysfunctional family. It was hugely abusive. And by the time she was 5 years old, she decided that she would be better off dead than living in that household because she knew her time was limited anyways. So she went out to the curb of her house and she looked into this huge blue sky and she wondered if there was someone bigger or something bigger out there than the people that were hurting her regularly. all family members, extended family members. There was really no out for her. And so as she sat there, no car came by like it usually would. And in the still quiet, she heard this voice in her heart say, "This is not the plan I have for you. Suicide is not the answer." And for whatever reason, Jean believed that voice. She trusted that voice, that one voice in her life. She didn't even know who it was. But in her little 5-year-old heart, she basically said, "If you keep me alive, I'll do whatever you call me to do." And so, fast forward through a lot of painful years, other attempts by people to end her life prematurely, the last time being when she was 17. She had a huge speech impediment and was laughed at in school. She was bullied. She was spat at by people because of that. And yet, Jean decided that she would be someone that people would listen to at some point in her life. Going through high school, was a great scholar, worked hard, had 3 jobs, and just to stay away from the people that hurt her. And then she was able to go to college. And college is where she started realizing that people lived different lives than she had lived. And that's where she began figuring out what her best game was. So she finished early and continued on, put herself through law school. And if you're wondering how I know so much about her, it's because my middle name is Jean. And I was that girl that was trafficked and abused and tortured for so many years. And yet, I was able to create a new normal and to learn how to be the person I have become over way too many decades than I care to admit. So let's go to unintentional circumstances. I did not choose that family. I did not choose that life. Circumstances happened to me, but I knew if I lived, I won. And if I died, the evil people won. So I chose to win every single day. And it was not easy. There are a lot of heartaches, a lot of hardships. Was never blessed with financial security or emotional security. But every time I woke up and I moved forward, I had the chance to change my game day, to change my perspective on who I would be that day. And one thing I knew for sure is I would never, ever be like the people that had been in my life in my early years. And in fact, I wanted to actually go and help more kids and help more people, never to experience that pain like I had. And yet, I needed to be prepared. So, the part of circumstances that are intentional are what we choose to do with what we have. Our backpack is our backpack, and there's a lot of stuff in there. And some of us carry a lot of other people's backpacks, and that's another topic for another conversation. But in our backpack, we're responsible for everything in there and how we use it to our advantage. So, for example, if I want to have a more orderly day, say my game is I need more order, then I need to figure out what the tools are to do that and then practice it and practice it and practice it. And so, with an insecure person like I was, somebody who was very shy, I know that's hard to believe at the moment, but I was terrified of people. But I chose to go on debate team, even with a speech impediment. I chose to sing in church, even with a speech impediment. I chose to put myself in difficult situations because, like a diamond, you have to get cut to bring your best game. You have to be refined. And that polishing just makes you more brilliant in the process, even when we don't understand why are all these bad things happening, right? So adversity and circumstances that are not in our control are difficult, yes. But there is a choice that we have to make. Are we going to allow that to be our game for the rest of our life? Or are we going to choose to look at what happened and decide whether it has any place in our current life? Because bringing your best game is not about being perfect. It is about being present. Being present means you can navigate the glitches and the sideways things that happen, and you will come out whole. You will come out standing firm because being in the present allows you to be aware of just what's immediate, what's in front of you, what's to the side of you. And one of the things that I like to encourage people to think about is, who taught you your game? Whose voice is in your head that says you must play this game? Because one of the toughest things I ever encountered was the negative self-talk, and being able to replace that with positive input and positive messaging. And so one of the things that I found very helpful was to put regrets and any bitterness, any anger behind me, because regrets and bitterness will not change the past, but it will change your future, and it definitely affects the present. And one of the things that helped me was doing a game, well, not a game, but doing an exercise I call the OK game. A long time ago, maybe 20 years ago, I looked in the mirror and I decided that if I didn't accept myself as okay, other people would not accept me as okay. And I would look in the mirror every morning and I would say, you know what? I may not be where I want to be. I'm definitely not perfect. And I would like some things to change. But for today, I'm okay. God made me okay. And I repeated that every single day. And before I went to bed, I'd look in the mirror. It's okay. We had an okay day. We had a good day. We had a great day. We had a terrible day, but I am still okay. And so that was one of the action items in my life that really helped me. One of the other action items was to create an intentional support network. What I mean by that is choosing people, whether definitely not family at that time, but people that I respected, people that I felt respected me, and they became like a council. So an intentional support network so that I could live forward. Choosing to live forward means you're not going backwards, and it means that you can continue building on your game. So whenever you have that moment of, oh my gosh, something has happened unexpected, you still have your best game. I remember when I had celiac-induced liver failure in 2013, and I could barely get out of bed, but I had a shelter and I had kids and I had people I was responsible for. And I decided if I did one thing, if I brought my best game just one time in that day, it would matter. And it did. I would go to businesses and I would talk to one manager a day and I would tell them who we were, what our nonprofit was doing. And don't you know, it bore a lot of fruit. So whatever your game is, no matter what condition you're in, that's what we need to do. You have to be fit, you have to practice. And one of the things that the GIGO part, the garbage in and garbage out, we hear things, we absorb things that we don't need to. We need to have that filter and a little bit of a boundary to bring that best game. What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And what are you reading? What are you putting in? Because that's going to come out. You put in positive, you're going to eventually get positive. You put in negative, you're definitely going to get negative. And negative loves misery because misery loves company, which is always negative. So one of the things is changing our self-talk and also what we take in. So besides the okay exercise and choosing to live forward, there are things that we can do to create a new normal, which is what I had to do, especially when I started acknowledging my PTSD. I definitely had to figure out, how can I bring my best game and respect myself at the same time? And it's still something I'm practicing. But you know, each day when I get up, I already know I'm going to bring the best game I can, no matter what I feel like, no matter how lousy the day's been or how great the day's been. I am still going to show up and I'm going to give it everything I have, because I represent a higher power, and I also represent the opportunity for hope in others who maybe have forgotten that they do have a game worth playing, that they do have something to offer. And so